Hey, Stacey David here with Tales of a Gearhead podcast. This podcast is about all things automotive from any time, any place, and beyond. All right, let's get to it. Hey guys, we got a big treat for you today. We've got Matt Swift from MouseBlocker. We're going to talk about rodents. We're going to talk about mice. We know they're in your garage. We know they're in your cars, and they're driving you crazy. And we're going to talk about how to get rid of them. So, are you a hot rod guy, a muscle car guy, import guy? What are you?
Whew.
You like them all?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a little bit of everything.
Good.
I've always been an import guy.
Yeah.
I really like the fit and finish and the import technology.
Now, when you say imports, what are you talking about? What's your favorite import?
Mostly Euros.
Okay.
Nice. I don't own, but I'm really interested in the Porsche products.
Yeah.
Who
isn't?
I could really grow to appreciate something like that.
Now, did you do restorations when you had your shop, or was it more speed parts?
Speed stuff.
Okay.
We did a lot of import tuning.
Yeah.
So a lot of turbocharger, high performance upgrades.
And this is right when
suspension
Fast and
work.
Furious was coming out.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So you were in the pocket.
All the 2000s.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So how did MouseBlocker come about? I mean, that's quite a jump from imports to mice.
Yeah. So when I got out of the import business, when I sold that company. And I was actually a manager at a real Volkswagen car dealership.
Yeah.
And people were coming to me,
Yeah.
check engine lights, problems.
Yeah.
And and I'm explaining to them like, hey, you've got somebody living in the car.
They didn't want to hear that.
You've got a rodent problem.
Yeah.
Like I drive this every day. What do you mean?
Oh yeah.
Show them pictures, show them videos. They want to get it fixed, but then they want to make sure that it doesn't come back.
Yeah.
And they're like, so what do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Back then, I was like,
get a cat.
Mothballs? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this is a new car. I'm not going to put mothballs in it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't argue with that.
Oh yeah.
And it puts you, when you're a problem solver, in a really tough position. So then I went to work.
Yeah.
And really, I spent like a good year and a half really researching technology and trying to figure out what the best direction to find a solution for people like at car dealers, with new cars and technology that were running into these problems on a daily basis.
Now, how could you find, because the MouseBlocker works, you can put it in your car, you can put it in your garage.
Yes.
So it keeps them out of your building, or it keeps them out of the vehicle. That's kind of two different approaches. How'd you come up with that?
Well, the customers actually were telling us what they needed. So we started with one product. And then it kind of evolved.
Yeah.
And then when it started getting into larger spaces, we had to go back to the drawing board and redesign the speakers,
absolutely.
redesign the frequencies, make them project rather than being violent in a short, tight range. We had to be uncomfortable in a very large space. So our stuff's really designed to work together, and this was all feedback from our customers and what they really what they were looking for.
Now, did you have any qualms? Obviously most of us want the mice dead, but did you have problems? Some people did want to kill them, they just wanted to send them to somebody else, or because most of your rodent problems are dealt with poison or traps, death.
Yep.
So, and MouseBlocker doesn't do that. It sends them down to the road and to somebody else. So, what about that approach? Have you had flack with that? Has that been good, bad, what?
Well, we really care about animals and birds and cats and your neighbor's cat and the owls and things like that. We were really looking for a humane.
That's good.
Kind of way to handle the problem.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, the mice are hiding in your car.
Yeah.
They're hiding in your garage from the cats and the birds and the snakes. Yeah. So what we do is we drive them out of their safe places.
Yeah.
So those other things can do their job, whether it be a trap or a bird. That's that's the best case scenario for us. And we're not poisoning things. We're not killing your neighbor's cat. We're not killing the birds that are taking care of thousands of rodents.
That's another question I wanted to ask you, because people have asked me about this. Does MouseBlocker affect pets? dogs, things like that. Like the big one with the big speakers. Can it affect animals? And if it does, how?
So what they do, they can affect animals as they get closer to the size of a rabbit.
Okay.
So big dog, no problem.
Yeah.
Small dog, it will be annoyed, it'll be aggravated, so you'll find that it will stay away from that area.
Okay. Well, small dogs are usually aggravated anyway.
Well, that's quite true. You will find cats.
But it won't kill them.
It won't kill them.
Okay.
No. This stuff doesn't kill anything. It's just rather annoying.
Yeah.
And that safe, warm, comfortable space, we make violent, so nothing wants to hang out in there. So the cats aren't walking on your paint.
Yeah.
Sleeping on the car. Yes, they'll walk by, they'll move through the room, they'll still be able to pick off the rodents as they're being flushed out. This will shake up the space, so you'll get a lot of movement from the rodents.
Now, do you get, does it also chase off other animals?
Mice, rats, squirrels, chipmunks, weasels, rabbits. We have some people using it for sea otters on boats. Wow. Believe it or not. Quite a few things, you know, in that spectrum and size of problem.
Now, if a guy has, say he's got a car like this, and it's a restoration project that he's going to get to in a while, and it's just a breeding ground for rodents because there's interior to eat and wiring, and I mean, this is a buffet for a rodent. How do you keep them out of here? What would you suggest? If I came to you and said, okay, how do I keep mice out of my project vehicle? What would you say?
This is the best case scenario for a rodent because there's all this building materials for the sweetest nest. It's and it's a nice safe place from predators. Yeah. We have plug-in version units that don't run off the battery. Okay. I would put something like that in here. We'd put it if it's in a garage.
Like your Pro?
Yeah, the Pro.
Yeah.
The Pro is intense. It actually has an eviction mode on it. That's a proprietary piece for us. That hits at 115 decibels that they feel.
That's like a Who concert.
That is, it is. It's actually jackhammer, rock concert dB kind of range. Yeah. Rumbling them from the inside out. So yeah, I would place that in the space. In the trunk, under the hood, the spaces that you're really
do you just need one for a car like this, or do you need one inside the interior, one in the trunk, one under the hood?
It gets tricky. So this is sound, so it does not go through things. Yes. So the sound's not going to go through the seat, go through the firewall, into the trunk. So if you've got different spaces and compartments, you may need a few units to protect those dedicated spaces. That's what gets tricky when you're doing RVs and campers because there's a lot of compartments. Yeah. But when you put these together as a team, they actually work very, very well. And
then you would probably recommend that somebody puts one in their garage against the wall, that it goes out across the floor.
Exactly. So what we do, if we put one in the garage by itself, sometimes we turn the car into a safe place. We actually chase them into the car.
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
So what we do is we put our most violent product, the Pro, at 115 dB. We put that in the vehicle. Okay. That makes this the most uncomfortable space in the world. Then we've got a unit like our 1000 or the 12,000. Those are whisper quiet. You can't hear those. And those are long-range speakers that shake up the space around it. It's not as powerful and intense as this, but that's on purpose because it's a step. This is the worst place in the world. Yeah. This is the second worst place in the world. I'll go outside where it feels a little safer.
And I guess that's the ultimate goal, is that when they start to come in through the walls or whatever, they're coming into a space that's uncomfortable, so they just don't come in.
Ultimately, that's it. They're going to hunt around, they're going to move around, but they're going to find that this is not where they want to be.
Do you offer any kind of warranties, guarantees, whatever? In other words, say a guy buys one of your units, 2 or 3 of them, and he does all this, and his $30,000 interior still gets chewed up by a mouse, and he comes back to you and he goes, hey, I bought this, they still got eaten up, you owe me. That probably hasn't happened, but surely you've got some sort of warranty or disclaimer or whatever, because these are wild animals.
Sure.
So how do you handle that?
So this is a deterrent. I mean, you can put a trap down and it won't work. You can put things like, it's a deterrent. Yeah. I have a no questions asked money back guarantee. Yeah. So if anybody contacted me like, hey, this isn't working for me, that's fine. Send it back to me. I'll send you your money back. There's no questions.
Cool.
everything. It's an electronic device that's on 24/7 in the most cases.
Yeah.
And so we warranty it, again, no questions asked, for 12 months. So there's a full year warranty from the data purchase. As far as the product maybe not working, in the situation, there is nothing that's 100%. And this is a team of team of events. So what we really want you to do
a mousetrap's not 100%.
It's not 100%.
Yeah,
so what we want to do is 1 up or 10 up what you're currently doing, which is nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Feeding them.
Right, exactly. So we're going to 10 up that, make this as violent as we can. They're trying to survive. So they're going to do anything they can. We want you, though, to be aggressive in your pickoff process.
Yes.
So once we shake them up and we start making them move around, please be trapping. Please make, or have a cat.
Nice.
Or let let the birds and the owls and snakes do their thing. But be aggressive, because it's a whole lot easier to deter 6 than it is 60.
Yeah.
And so if you're not picking them off, they're multiplying their army against you.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization. But instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gears Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gears Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
All right, this next question comes from Mark, and he says, "Hey, Stacey, you're always encouraging people to get out there and work on their own vehicles. Is there anything that I shouldn't do?" Yeah, Mark, don't do anything that's going to get you killed. Now, that's actually a really good question, man. Yeah, there's some things that you shouldn't do, but it all depends on your skill and your tools and all this other kind of stuff. So let's look at this a little bit. First of all, you should always do stuff that you're comfortable with. If it's stuff you've done before or things you're familiar with, oil changes, brake jobs, that kind of stuff, absolutely jump out there and do that. Now, expounding on that, if it's something that you're not that familiar with, but you have a confidence that you can do it, then by all means do that. That's what we're trying to encourage people to do all the time. You can figure this stuff out. You don't have to have done it before to do it. I'm talking mostly mechanical things. I always encourage people to expand their skills, learn the things. The more you can do, the better you get at it, and the more your skill level grows. When you get into things that are out of your comfort zone, say welding or paintwork or upholstery work, things that require a special skill, I always encourage people to try that, but you should do that as long as you have somebody there to mentor you or to be there that does know how to do it to help you in case you get messed up. And that's honestly kind of the point of these shows that we do, is to kind of show you some of the things that you might run into to encourage you to try to do it. And these are all things that you can figure out, but it's always nice to have somebody there or a manual of some sort in case you get, into a tight spot. And that can happen, especially when it requires special skills. That kind of brings me into the last part of this. You really need to do stuff that you have the skills and the tools to do. Don't get into something where you have to buy tools and learn how to use them. Now, did you catch what I said there? Because that's not a good time to learn when you're doing it on your own project, unless the point of the project is to learn that skill. Case in point, say you want to learn how to do metalwork or be a welder and you don't know how. You don't have a welder, you don't have anything. Okay, if you're trying to build a project and your goal is to finish the project, the last thing you want to do is spend $1,000 on a welder and then the hours that it takes to use it properly, which means you're going to have to go to somebody and pay them to do it and all that other kind of stuff. If the goal is just finishing the car, you have to factor it in that way. Now, if your goal is to learn to do the metal work, then yes, buy the welder and take the time to learn it. That means you're not going to be in a hurry to finish the project, but you're actually learning the skill and saving yourself money as you go through it. That's a time when you would want to do it. But you see the difference in the mindset. One is to do it to learn it, and the other is to do it just to get it done. If your goal is to just get it done, then you don't need to be trying to learn a skill, buy the tools, and do the metalworking stuff or the paint work at the time you're trying to finish the vehicle. I hope that makes sense to you, Mark. Like I said, we're always trying to encourage people to get out, expand your horizons, learn the skills, and do that kind of thing. But you also need to be realistic. Another prime example, let's say you want to build a kit car. It's a really popular, thing to build these component cars now, like a Cobra or whatever. Okay, so you get in there. If you don't understand suspension geometry, if you don't understand how to set your brakes up properly, then you need to get somebody in that knows how to do it. Get a buddy over there or a friend or Google somebody or whatever. Figure out how to do something like that before you commit to it. And hopefully you'll come out good on the tail end. Case in point, there was a guy that came up and posted something a while back where he had some brake failure on one of his vehicles, and he was talking about how bad the brakes were, and these were Wilwood brakes and they were not good and all this other stuff. And the problem was not the Wilwood brakes. The problem was that they hadn't been set up properly. And obviously, he had made a mistake somehow in the setup of his brakes. So the problem was not in the product. Problem was in the person that put it in. So what you want to do when you get into these projects is make sure you understand what you're getting into before you get into it. And if it's not something you're comfortable with, don't do it. Hopefully, Mark, that helps you out, man. Good luck to you. The question I have here is from Ed, and Ed has a paint question. And boy, do I get this question a lot. He says, I have 2 GM vehicles with the white diamond pearl paint. I cannot make a touch-up paint repair that looks good. He said, apparently these are the worst colors to touch up. Is there a way to touch up these difficult color paints so they don't look terrible? Oh, man, good question. Well, Ed, yeah, there is a way to do it, but you're not going to like the answer. Let me dig into this a little bit. First of all, I assume that when you're talking about touch-up paints, you're talking about the stuff that you can buy like at O'Reilly or any auto parts store like the Duplicolor touch-up stuff. And listen, those products, for what they're supposed to do a fine job. But you're trying to touch up a 3-stage paint. And, that is impossible with a little paintbrush or a little paint pen. Now, let me explain to you what's going on here. I won't get too long into this because this gets into, paint and all this other kind of thing. But basically, you got 2 types of paint on a vehicle. You have your solid colors, and then you have your metallics and pearls and your 3 stages. When you're putting on a paint, it's usually a color coat. If it's a solid color, then you have a clear coat over it. So if you go in with your little paintbrush and you have a solid color, you can lay it in there, you can sand it down, you can put your clear over it, and you can get it to lay pretty flat for a touch-up paint deal. That's kind of what the Duplicolor stuff does. The problem is when you get into pearls and metallics or a tri-stage. Now, let me explain to people what a 3-stage paint job, tri-stage paint, whatever you want to call it. It's basically your base coat, which a lot of times has your metallic in it, so it'd be like a base gold or a base silver. Then you have your color coat that goes over that, and it's more of a translucent color. And then you have the clear coat that goes over the top of that. And so as you can see, this gives the paint that depth that we all love, but it's also a bugger to touch up with a little paintbrush. So basically, when you get into doing this, when you put metallics and pearls into a paint, you have little substances floating around in there. That's the metallic. Well, when you lay that on with a paintbrush, those metallics are going to lay differently than when you shoot them out of a spray gun. And what you want is you want to atomize them out of a spray gun to where those metallics lay nice and even. That's basically what happens out of a professional spray gun. You're atomizing that paint to where it's just this beautiful mist of color and metallic that's very even, and it lays out there and it's just beautiful. Well, you can't get that out with a paintbrush. So the only way to fix this kind of color correctly to where you can't see it, you either got to go to a body shop and have them do it professionally, which means that they'll fix whatever scratch or dent, they'll raise the surface, and then they'll, do a spray out of the whole area right there to where it all blends back in. And you can't just do this where the scratch is. You got to go 6 to 8 inches out around and blend that paint. And you can only do that with professional spray gear. And forget about these aerosol cans and all that crap. That's not going to give you the look you want. They just don't atomize it enough. It needs to be done professionally if you want this to look right. So basically, the bad news that you don't want to hear is you need to take it to a professional body shop. Any professional body shop can fix that in a second. Or you need to buy the gear, the professional stuff to do it, and learn how to fix these things yourself. Chances are you probably don't want to do that. So I would recommend that you go to a good body shop and have them fix those scratches. And they won't have any trouble with it. And you'll never even know they were there. Hopefully that helps you, Ed. Okay, this question comes from James, and James says, "Hey, Stacey, I was listening to your podcast about the cost that it takes to build a project." And he says, "Here's what I did." He says, "I'm retired, and I found a 38 Chevy business coupe with a Mustang 2 front end and a 9-inch Ford rear. It's got a 350 Chevy in it with a high lift cam, dual carbs, and all sorts of goodies." He says, "The body's all still. It's painted black with flames. It's got mini tubs." And he said, "I bought it finished because I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a welder. I'm not a body man, but I'm crazy about hot rods." And he says, "I am enjoying the hobby." Now, tell you what, James, you got it figured out. I wish more people would take that approach. Not everybody has to be a builder. Not everybody has to be a mechanic. Not everybody has to be a fabricator. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes all types. Heck, if you don't know how to do it, buy yourself a good car and enjoy it. And the cool thing is now, obviously this car was built by somebody that knew what they were doing. It sounds like it's well put together. So it's basically just a used car. So if James has problems with it, he takes it to a mechanic and they fix the problem. James was probably into this a whole lot cheaper than if he would have tried to hand build it himself. He's out enjoying the car and having a good time with it. When you're thinking about getting into a project, make sure that you're looking around at some of these used projects or used vehicles that are out there. Now, one thing that I do want to caution you about, one of the biggest mistakes that James could have made is if he would have bought an unfinished project. Because he says, "I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a welder, I'm not a body man." He doesn't need to be trying to figure out where somebody else left off. That can be a real problem. So he was smart enough to spend the extra money to get a finished car that's safe, running, driving, and he's enjoying it. So that's another approach to this. So if you're a hot rod nut and don't want to build one yourself, man, look for a used car out there that somebody's already spent the time and money building. You'll have a great time with it. James, thanks for the letter, man. It's awesome. All right, I've got a question that comes from Michael. And Michael says, "Hey, Stacey, you did an international pickup project years ago. It was red, had a 352 Hemi in it. Was it ever finished?" He said, "I'd love to see the finished project." Well, Michael, yeah, I would love to see the finished project too. No, I never did finish that. What he's talking about, for those of you that don't know, that was the Harry Hauler, and I started that years ago on trucks. I was almost done with it, and then when I left trucks and started doing the show gears, I had to do something different, and it was the 75th anniversary of the 32 Ford, so I put together the Rat Roaster project with Brookville Roadsters, and unfortunately, the Harry Hauler was very similar project. So I had to make the decision, do I keep it or do I get rid of it? And very rarely have I gotten rid of something that wasn't completely finished, but that was one of the few. And I've always regretted that because I love that truck. The problem is I don't know where it is. It was never finished, to my knowledge. I sold it to a young couple and walked them through what it would take to finish it. But I've never seen anything on it. So I would love to find the truck. I'd love to get it back. And I'd love to finish it. So if you have the Harry Hauler, or if you know where it's at, or you know anything about it, let us know. I would love to find that truck and finish that out. That was awesome, man. You remember the exhaust and the induction tubing that Stainless Works did on it. Man, it was cool. Cool truck. Thanks for reminding me of that, man. All right, that's our show for today, which means you need to get out there and start working on something. Spend some time turning wrenches. You'll love it. Also, make sure to check out our website, staceydavid.com. We got all kinds of new products, some great stuff there you're going to love. Also, make sure you check out our social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. Our social media is where you're going to find all the bonus content, the giveaways, the contests, the trivia. We even have extra viewer projects that we show everybody to focus on what you're working on. YouTube is where you're going to be able to find all of our episodes of Gears, past, present, and future. I know a lot of you guys ask about that. That's where you can see them. All right, that's all we got. We'll see you next time.